Continuing. Chapter 8. Blair moved restlessly around the small shack. His eyes jerked and quivered in vague, fleeting glances at the four men with him. Barclay, 6 feet tall and weighing over 190 pounds. McCready, a bronze giant of a man. Dr. Copper, short, squatly powerful, and Benning, 5 feet 10 of wiry strength. Blair was huddled up against the far wall of the east cache cabin, his gear piled in the middle of the floor beside the heating stove, forming an island between him and the four men. His hands clenched and fluttered, terrified. His pale eyes wavered uneasily as his bald, freckled head darted about in a bird-like motion. I don't want anybody coming here. I'll cook my own food, he snapped nervously. Kenner may be human now, but I don't believe it. I'm going to get out of here, but I'm not going to eat any food you send me. I want cans. Sealed cans. Okay, Blair, we'll bring 'em tonight, Barclay promised. You've got coal in the fire started. I'll make a last. Barclay started forward. Blair instantly scurried to the farthest corner. Get out! Keep away from me, you monster! The little biologist shrieked, and tried to claw his way through the wall of the shack. Keep away from me! Keep away! I won't be absorbed! I won't be... Barclay relaxed and moved back. Dr. Copper shook his head. Leave him alone, Bar. It's easier for him to fix the thing himself. We'll have to fix the door, I think. The four men let themselves out. Efficiently, Benning and Barclay fell to work. There were no locks in Antarctica. There wasn't enough privacy to make them needed. But powerful screws had been driven in each side of the door frame, and the spare aviation control cable, immensely strong, woven steel wire, was rapidly caught between them and drawn tight. Barclay went to work with a drill and a keyhole saw. Presently he had a trap cut in the door through which goods could be passed without unlashing the entrance. 3 powerful hinges from a stock crate, 2 hasps, and a pair of 3-inch cotter pins made it proof against opening from the other side. Scroll too far. Blair moved about restlessly inside. He was dragging something over to the door with panting gasps and muttering frantic curses. Barclay opened the hatch and glanced in, Dr. Copper peering over his shoulder. Blair had moved the heavy bunk against the door. It could not be opened without his cooperation now. Don't know that the poor man's right at that, McCready sighed. If he gets loose, it is his avowed intention to kill each and all of us as quickly as possible, which is something we don't agree with. But we've got something on our side of that door that is worse than a homicidal maniac. If one or the other has to get loose, I think I'll come up and undo these lashings here. Barclay grinned. You let me know and I'll show you how to get these off fast. Let's go back. The sun was painting the northern horizon in multicolored rainbows still, though it was 2 hours below the horizon. The field of drift snow swept off to the north, sparkling under its flaming colors in a million reflected glories. Low mounds of round white on the northern horizon showed the magnet range was barely awash above the sweeping drift. Little eddies of wind-lifted snow swirled away from their skis as they set out toward the main encampment 2 miles away. The spidery finger of the broadcast radiator lifted a gaunt needle against the white of the Antarctic continent. The snow under their skis was like fine sand, hard and gritty. Spring, said Benning bitterly, is came. Ain't we got fun? And I've been looking forward to getting away from this blasted hole in the ice. I wouldn't try it now if I were you, Barclay grunted. Guys that set out from here in the next few days are going to be marvelously unpopular. How's your dog getting along, Dr. Copper? McCready asked. Any results yet? In 30 hours? I wish there were. I gave him an injection of my blood today, but I imagine another 5 days will be needed. I don't know certainly enough to stop sooner. I've been wondering, if Conant were changed, would he have warned us so soon after the animal escaped? Wouldn't he have waited long enough for it to have a real chance to fix itself? Until we woke up naturally? McCready asked slowly. The thing is selfish. You didn't think it looked as though it were possessed of a store of the higher justices. I don't know what that beep was. The thing is selfish. You didn't think it looked as though it were possessed of a store of the higher justices, did you? Dr. Copper pointed out. Every part of it is all of it. Every part of it is all for itself, I imagine. If Conant were changed to save his skin, he'd have to, but Conant's feelings aren't changed. They're imitated perfectly, or they're his own. Naturally, the imitating perfectly Conant's feelings, would do exactly what Conant would do. Say, couldn't Norris or Vane give Conant some kind of test? If the thing is brighter than men, it might know more physics than Conant should, and they'd catch it out, Barclay suggested. Copper shook his head wearily. Not if it reads minds. You can't plant a trap for it. Vane suggested that last night. He hoped it would answer some of the questions of physics he'd like to know answers to. This expedition of 4 idea is going to make life happy. Benning looked at his companions, each of us with an eye on the others to make sure he doesn't do something peculiar. Man, aren't we going to be a trusting bunch, each man eyeing his neighbors with the grandest exhibition of faith and trust. I'm beginning to know what Conant meant by, I wish I could see your eyes. I wish you could see your eyes. Every now and then we all have it, I guess. One of you looks around with a sort of, I wonder if the other 3 are, look. Incidentally, I'm not exempting myself. So far as we know, the animal is dead, with a slight question as to Conant. No other is suspected, Macready stated slowly. The always 4 order is merely a precautionary measure. I'm waiting for Gary to make it 4 in a bunk, Barclay sighed. I thought I didn't have any privacy before, but since that order... Line break. None watched more tensely than Conant. A sterile glass test tube, half filled with straw-colored fluid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drops of the clear solution Dr. Copper had prepared from the drops of blood from Conant's arm. The tube was shaken carefully, then set in a beaker of clear, warm water. The thermometer read blood heat, a little thermostat clicked noisily, and the electric hot plate began to glow as the lights flickered slightly. We have an illustration. Image description start. 4 men are gathered around and peering down at a test tube filled with dark and light substances, staring at it in suspense over a glowing opening in a metal tank. Image description end. Then, little white flecks of precipitation were forming, snowing down in the straw-colored fluid. Lord, said Conant. He dropped heavily onto a bunk, crying like a baby. 6 days! Conant sobbed. 6 days in there, wondering if that damn test would lie. Gary moved over silently and slipped his arm across the physicist's back. It couldn't lie, Dr. Copper said. The dog was human immune, and the serum reacted. He's all right, Norris gasped. Then the animal is dead. Dead forever? He is human, Copper spoke definitely, and the animal is dead. Kinner burst out laughing hysterically. Macready turned toward him and slapped his face with a methodical 1-2-1-2 action. The cook laughed, gulped, cried a moment, and sat up rubbing his cheeks, mumbling his thanks vaguely. I was scared, Lord, I was scared. Norris laughed brittlely. You think we weren't, you ape? You think maybe Conant wasn't? The ad building stirred with a sudden rejuvenation. Voices laughed. The men clustering around Conant spoke with unnecessarily loud voices, jittery, nervous voices relievedly friendly again. Somebody called out a suggestion, and a dozen started for their skis. Blair might recover. Dr. Copper fussed with his test tubes in nervous relief, trying solutions. The party of relief for Blair's shack started out the door, skis slapping noisily. Down the corridor, the dogs set up a quick yelping howl as the air of excited relief reached them. All right, Lightning, you want to join in on the audiobook? You want to howl? Nope. Oliver's playing with his cat toy, though. Oliver's taking up the howl. Thanks, Oliver. Hi, Lucy. Thank you, Oliver. You're on YouTube now. Oh. You want to howl? Put some sound effects in? No, they just want to do it at complete random when I'm trying to read, when it's not helpful. Dr. Copper fussed with his tubes. Macready noticed him first, sitting on the edge of the bunk, with 2 precipitin whitened test tubes of straw-colored fluid. His face whiter than the stuff in the tubes, silent tears slipping down from horror-widened eyes. Macready felt a cold knife of fear pierce through his heart and freeze in his breast. Dr. Copper looked up. Gary, he called hoarsely. Gary, for God's sake, come here. Commander Gary walked toward him sharply. Silence clapped down on the ad building. Conant looked up, rose stiffly from his seat. Gary, tissue from the monster. That's just FedEx. Tissue from the monster precipitates too. It proves nothing but the dog was monster immune too. That one of the two contributing blood, one of us too, you and I, Gary. Oh, he's doing it. A little bit late, but better than never. Woo, 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 woo. Now he's just staring at me. There he goes. Come on, Lightning, you can do it. You just... Come on. Yodel for YouTube. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. You gotta get down. You can't fight me. No, Lucy, that's not cool. You gotta learn to be nice. No yodeling this time. They're just being playful. Alright. Are you gonna do it now? And they're interrupting the dramatic part too. Alright. That one of the two contributing blood, one of us too, you and I, Gary, one of us is a monster. Bar, call those men back before they tell Blair, McCready said quietly. Barclay went to the door. They're going to be loud now. Faintly his shouts came back to the tensely silent men in the room. Then he was back. They're coming, he said. I didn't tell them why. Just that Dr. Copper said not to go. McCready, Gary sighed. You're in command now. May God help you. I cannot. Just yodeling. The bronze giant nodded slowly, his deep eyes on Commander Gary. I may be the one, Gary added. I know I'm not, but I cannot prove it to you in any way. Dr. Copper's test has broken down. The fact that he showed it was useless when it was to the advantage of the monster to have that uselessness not known would seem to prove he was human. Copper rocked back and forth on the bunk. I know I'm human. I can't prove it either. One of us two is a liar, for the test cannot lie, and it says one of us is. I gave proof that the test was wrong, which seems to prove I'm human, and now Gary has given that argument that proves me human, which he, as the monster, should not do. Round and round and round and round and round. Dr. Copper's head, then his neck and shoulders began circling slowly in time to the words. Slowly he was lying back on the bunk, roaring with laughter. It doesn't have to prove one of us is a monster. It doesn't have to prove that at all. Ho-ho! If we're all monsters, it works the same. We're all monsters. All of us, Conant and Gary and I, and all of you. McCready, Van Wall, the blonde-bearded chief pilot, called softly. You were on the way to an MD when you took up meteorology, weren't you? Can you make some kind of test? McCready went over to Copper slowly, took the hypodermic from his hand, and washed it carefully in 95% alcohol. Gary sat on the bunk edge with a wooden face, watching Copper and McCready expressionlessly. What Copper says is possible, McCready sighed. Van, will you help me here? Thanks. The needle jabbed into Copper's thigh. The man's laughter did not stop, but slowly faded into sobs, then sound sleep as the morphia took hold. McCready turned again. The men who had started for Blair stood at the far end of the room, skis dripping snow, their faces as white as their skis. Conant had a lighted cigarette in each hand. One he was puffing absently and staring at the floor. The heat of the one in his left hand attracted him, and he stared at it, and then the one in the other hand stupidly for a moment. He dropped one and crushed it under his heel slowly. Dr. Copper, McCready repeated, could be right. I know I'm human, but of course I can't prove it. I'll repeat the test for my own information. Any of you other who wish may do the same. 2 minutes later, McCready held a test tube with white precipitin slowly settling from the straw-colored serum. It reacts to human blood too, so they aren't both monsters. I didn't think they were, Van Wall sighed. That wouldn't suit the monster either. We would have destroyed them if we knew. Why hasn't the monster destroyed us, do you suppose? It seems to be loose." MacReady snorted, then laughed softly. "Elementary, my dear Watson. The monster wants to have life forms available. It cannot animate a dead body, apparently. It is just waiting until the best opportunities come. We who remain human, it is holding in reserve." Kinner shuddered violently. Hey, Mac, would I know if I was a monster? What if I know if the monster had already got me? Oh, Lord, I may be a monster already." This is him asking the other dogs to play. "Where's your toy go? Did you throw it outside?" "Where's your toy? You guys can at least chase it." "Oh, I didn't need to make a piece. You go." I don't know where any of their dog toys are besides outside in the mud. "You'd know," MacReady answered. "But we wouldn't," Norris laughed softly, shortly, half hysterically. MacReady looked at the vial of serum remaining. "There's one thing this damn stuff is good for, at that," he said thoughtfully. "Clark, will you and Van help me? The rest of the gang better stick together here. Keep an eye on each other," he said bitterly. "See that you don't get into mischief, shall we say?" MacReady stared down the tunnel toward Dogtown, with Clark and Van Wall behind him. "You need more serum?" Clark asked. MacReady shook his head. "Tests. There's 4 cows in a bull and nearly 70 dogs down there. This stuff reacts only to human blood and monsters." Line break. MacReady came back to the ad building and went silently to the washstand. Clark and Van Wall joined him a moment later. Clark's lips had developed a tic, jerking into sudden, unexpected sneers. "What did you do?" exploded Conant exploded suddenly. "More immunizing?" Clark snickered and stopped with a hiccup. "Immunizing. Or hiccough. Immunizing. Ha! Immune, all right." "That monster," said Van Wall steadily, "is quite logical. Our immune dog was quite all right, and we drew a little more serum for the tests. But we won't make any more." Can't you use one man's blood on another dog?" Norris began. "There aren't," said MacReady softly, "any more dogs. Nor cattle, I might add." "No more dogs?" Benning sat down slowly. "They're very nasty when they start changing," Van Wall said precisely, "but slow. That electrocution iron you made up, Barclay's very fast. There's only one dog left, our immune. The monster left that for us, so we could play with our little test. The rest—" He shrugged and dried his hands. "The cattle," gulped Kinner, also, "reacted very nicely. They looked funny as hell when they start melting. The beast hasn't any quick escape when it's tied in dog chains or halters, and it had to be to imitate." Kinner stood up slowly. His eyes darted around the room, and came to rest horribly quivering on a tin bucket on the galley. Slowly, step by step, he retreated toward the door, his mouth opening and closing silently, like a fish out of water. "The milk!" he gasped. "I milked him an hour ago!" His voice broke into a scream as he dived through the door. He was out on the ice cap without windproof or heavy clothing. Van Wall looked after him for a moment thoughtfully. "He's probably hopelessly mad," he said at length, "but he might be a monster escaping. He hasn't any skis. Take a blowtorch, in case." The physical motion of the chase helped them, something that needed doing. 3 of the other men were quietly being sick. Norris was lying flat on his back, his face greenish, looking steadily at the bottom of the bunk above him. "Mac, how long have the cows been not cows?" MacReady shrugged his shoulders helplessly. He went over to the milk bucket and with his little tube of serum went to work on it. The milk clouded it, making certainty difficult. Finally he dropped the test tube in the stand and shook his head. "It tests negatively, which means either they were cows then, or that, being perfect imitations, they gave perfectly good milk." Copper stirred restlessly in his sleep and gave a gurgling cross between a snore and a laugh. Silent eyes fastened on him. "Would morphia A monster, somebody started to ask. Lord knows, McCready shrugged. It affects every earthly animal I know of. Conan suddenly raised his head. Mac, the dogs must have swallowed pieces of the monster, and the pieces destroyed them. The dogs were where the monster resided. I was locked up. Doesn't that prove? Very loud little bird all of a sudden. Van Wall shook his head. Sorry. Proves nothing about what you are, only proves what you didn't do. It doesn't do that, McCready sighed. We are helpless because we don't know enough, and so jittery we don't think straight. Locked up! Ever watch a white corpuscle of the blood go through the wall of a blood vessel? No? It sticks out a pseudopod, and there it is, on the far side of the wall. Oh, said Van Wall unhappily. The cattle tried to melt down, didn't they? They could have melted down, become just a thread of stuff, and leaked under a door to recollect on the other side. Ropes? No, that wouldn't work. They couldn't live in a sealed tank, or if, said McCready, you shoot it through the heart and it doesn't die, it's a monster. That's the best test I can think of offhand. No dogs, said Gary quietly, and no cattle. It has to imitate men now, and locking us up doesn't do any good. Your test might work, Mac, but I'm afraid it would be hard on the men. Chapter 10. Clark looked up from the galley stove as Van Wall, Barclay, McCready, and Benning came in, brushing the drift from their clothes. The other man jammed into the ad building continued studiously to do as they were doing, playing chess, poker, reading. Ralston was fixing a sledge on the table. Vane and Norris had their heads together over magnetic data, while Harvey read tables in a low voice. Dr. Copper snored softly on the bunk. Gary was working with Dutton over a sheaf of radio messages on the corner of Dutton's bunk and a small fraction of the radio table. Conant was using most of the table for cosmic ray sheets. Quite plainly through the corridor, despite two closed doors, they could hear Kinner's voice. Clark banged a kettle onto the galley stove and beckoned McCready silently. The meteorologist went over to him. I don't mind the cooking so damn much, Clark said nervously, but isn't there some way to stop that bird? We all agree it would be safe to move him into Cosmic House. Kinner? McCready nodded towards the door. I'm afraid not. I can dope him, I suppose, but we don't have an unlimited supply of morphia, and he's not in danger of losing his mind, just hysterical. Well, we're certainly in danger of losing ours. You've been out for an hour and a half. That's been going on steadily ever since, and it was going on for 2 hours before. There's a limit, you know. Gary wandered over slowly, apologetically. For an instant, McCready caught the feral spark of fear, horror, in Clark's eyes, and knew at the same instant it was in his own. Gary or Copper, was certainly a monster. If you could stop that, I think it would be a sound policy, Mac, Gary spoke quietly. There are tensions enough in this room. We agree that it would be safe for Kinner in there because everyone else in camp is under constant eyeing. Gary shivered slightly. And try in God's name to find some tests that will work. McCready sighed. Watched or unwatched, everyone's tense. Blair's jammed the trap so it won't open now. Says he's got food enough and keeps screaming. Go away, you're monsters, I won't be absorbed, I won't. I'll tell men when they come, go away. So we went away. There's no other test? Gary pleaded. McCready shrugged his shoulders. Copper was perfectly right. The serum test would be absolutely definitive if it hadn't been contaminated. But that's the only dog left, and he's fixed now. Chemicals? Chemical tests? McCready shook his head. Our chemistry isn't that good. I tried the microscope, you know. Gary nodded. Monster dog and real dog were identical. But you've got to go on. What are we going to do after dinner? Van Wall joined them quietly. Rotation sleeping. Half the crowd asleep, half awake. I wonder how many of us are monsters. All the dogs were. We thought we were safe, but somehow it got Copper. Or you. Van Wall's eyes flashed uneasily. It may have gotten every one of you. All of you but myself may be wondering, looking. No, that's not possible. You'd just spring then, I'd be helpless. We humans must somehow have the greater numbers, but He stopped. McCready laughed shortly. You're doing what Norris complained of in me, leaving it hanging. But if one more is changed, that may shift the balance of power. It doesn't fight. I don't think it ever fights. It must be a peaceable thing in its own imitable way. It never had to, because it always gained its end otherwise. Van Wall's mouth twisted in a sickly grin. You're suggesting, then, that perhaps it already has the greater numbers, but is just waiting. Waiting all of them. All of you, for all I know. Waiting till I, the last human, drop my weariness and sleep. Mac, did you notice their eyes all looking at us? Gary sighed. You haven't been sitting here for 4 straight hours, while all their eyes silently weighed the information that one of us two, Copper or I, is a monster certainly, perhaps both of us. Clark repeated his request. Will you stop that bird's noise? He's driving me nuts. Make him tone down, anyway. Still praying? McCready asked. Still praying, Clark groaned. He hasn't stopped for a second. I don't mind his praying if it relieves him, but he yells. He sings psalms and hymns and shouts prayers. He thinks God can't hear well way down here. Maybe he can't, Barclay grunted, or he'd have done something about this thing loosed from hell. Somebody's going to try that damn test you mentioned if you don't stop him, Clark stated grimly. I think a cleaver in the head would be as positive a test as a bullet in the heart. Go ahead with the food. I'll see what I can do. There may be something in the cabinets. McCready moved wearily toward the corner Copper had used as his dispensary. 3 tall cabinets of rough boards, 2 locked, were the repositories of the camp's medical supplies. 12 years ago, McCready had graduated, had started for an internship, and been diverted into meteorology. Copper was a picked man, a man who knew his profession thoroughly and modernly. More than half the drugs available were totally unfamiliar to McCready. Many of the others he had forgotten. There was no huge medical library here, no series of journals available to learn the things he had forgotten, the elementary, simple things to Copper, things that did not merit inclusion in the small library he had been forced to content himself with. Books are heavy, and every ounce of supplies had been freighted in by air. McCready picked a barbiturate hopefully. Barclay and Van Wall went with him. One man never went anywhere alone in Big Magnet. Ralston had his sledge put away, and the physicists had moved off the table, the poker game broken up when they got back. Clark was putting out the food. The click of spoons and the muffled sound of eating were the only signs of life in the room. There were no words spoken as the 3 returned, simply all eyes focused on them questioningly while the jaws moved methodically. McCready stiffened suddenly. Kenner was screeching out a hymn in a hoarse, cracked voice. He looked warily at Van Wall with a twisted grin and shook his head. Van Wall cursed bitterly and sat down at the table. We'll just plumb have to take that till his voice wears out. He can't yell like that forever. He's got a brass throat and a cast-iron larynx, Norris declared savagely. Then we could be hopeful and suggest he's one of our friends. In that case, he could go on renewing his throat till doomsday. Silence clamped down. For 20 minutes they ate without a word. Then Conant jumped up with an angry violence. You sit as still as a bunch of grave images. You don't say a word, but oh Lord, what expressive eyes you've got. They roll around like a bunch of glass marbles spilling down the table. They wink and blink and stare and whisper things. Can you guys look at somewhere else for a change, please? Listen, McCready, you're in charge here. Let's run movies for the rest of the night. We've been saving those reels to make 'em last. Last for what? Who is it going to see those last reels, eh? Let's see 'em while we can and look at something other than each other. Sound idea, Conant. I, for one, am quite willing to change this in any way I can. Turn the sound up loud, Dutton. Maybe you can drown out the hymns, Clark suggested. But don't, Norris said softly. Don't turn the lights off altogether. The lights will be out, McCready shook his head. We'll show all the cartoon movies we have. You won't mind seeing old cartoons, will you? Goody, goody, a moon picture show. I'm just in the mood. McCready turned to look at the speaker, a lean, lanky New Englander by the name of Caldwell. Caldwell was stuffing his pipe slowly, a sour eye cocked up to McCready. The bronze giant was forced to laugh. Okay, Bart, you win. Maybe we aren't quite in the mood for Popeye and Trick Ducks, but it's something. Let's play classifications, Caldwell suggested slowly. Or maybe you call it Guggenheim. You draw lines on a piece of paper and put down classes of things, like animals, one for H and one for U, and so on, like human and unknown, for instance. I think that would be a hell of a better game. Classification, I sort of figure, is what we need right now a lot more than movies. Maybe somebody's got a pencil that we can draw lines with. Lines between the U animals and the H animals, for instance. "MacReady's trying to find that kind of a pencil," Vanwell answered quietly, "but we've got 3 kinds of animals here, one that begins with M. We don't want any more." "Mad ones, you mean?" "Uh-huh. Clark, I'll help you with those pots so we can get our little peep show going." Caldwell got up slowly. Line break. I'll stop there so we don't get another corrupted video.